Hey friends, Russ here having more Daisy Lever gun fun. And I just wanted to show you something I'm holding on my lap. And why am I in my pajamas? Well, let's see. I'm fresh from the hospital yesterday where I invested in a new shoulder. Luckily, it's not on my strong side. So, with the help of a little medication, I'm going to be good enough to make a video here. This is a gun that used to be a gun, and now it's kind of a prop, something that represents what we may have seen Ralphie using in that Christmas Story movie. I picked up back in 2017 a relic kind of a thing at a little shop in a little antique shop on the way driving up from Rogers, Arkansas. We had just come back from the Daisy Museum, and I wanted to stop and pick up a few things. This is one of them. This gun was hammered and twisted. I mean, literally, the barrel shot and the fake magazine here, somebody had twisted them, and I didn't think I'd ever get it straight. But with a little patience, a vise, and a couple of vice grips, I was able to straighten things out to the point where I wasn't going to be able to use it to make a BB gun from, but I made a good-looking prop that you may have seen Ralphie with. I know if we remember from some of the old videos of the Daisy Museum, Mr. Reiber, when he was still alive, was making videos, and he explained they made about 6 different versions for the movie. Well, I thought to myself, if this thing is going for the trash heap, I may as well use it to make my representation of what Ralphie had. And I'll explain why I think Ralphie used a gun like this. First of all, the front, as they did for the movie, was not copper plated, but actually painted. And this is a painted sight band that is original to the gun. The gun being a model 1938, not a 38B, and not one of the 11140s from years gone by, but a 1938. And the front on this one, I actually had to construct. I did not have the bottle cap. There was no shot tube. So I made up something here. Whoops. Let me try to hold this here. Okay, that hole in the front does not represent a muzzle. It is simply there for looks. The tang that covers the lightning loader is stationary to the muzzle. Nothing turns, nothing spins. It's all for looks. It's all for show. And as we look down the gun a little further, why, this forearm, if you see the coloring is not quite right, it's because whenever I did this, I wasn't making it exactly true to what the time period would be. I just wanted something that was going to represent it. So I used this kind of coloration for the forearm and the stock. And I did use all slotted screws to try to keep it a little closer to time accurate. Again, the band on the forearm was painted in copper. This thing, the sight was bent up and simply not usable. So what I did, I removed it. It would have been covering this little hole here. I removed it, and I had to cut the end off of it because it was so badly damaged. And then I reattached. That's why the hole is exposed. It does have a retainer for the mainspring, but it's not there. Inside, there are no innards to this. Again, because I think this is what Ralphie was using, at least in the scene where he was imagining saving the family from Black Bart. Because of that, this is a bolt that I put through. Normally that would be a rivet. as we all know. That would be a rivet that's about 1 inch long and peened on either side. But to keep the hole filled up and to make it look pretty good, I used a rivet. Now, as we come back further on this, I didn't want to use a plastic caulking lever. That would not have been appropriate. This has the etched little etchings on the handle of the caulking lever and the daisy bullseye. It's not one of the more common ones, but then a 38 is not one of the more common guns either. One of the things I had to do was straighten out the area where the caulking lever is attached, because it was all hammered, bent, and really stretched out of shape. Wasn't able to do that easily because, as we all know, this is an area of the gun where there is a double thickness of steel. There's a big thing that's looped over inside, and it is welded with a little tack weld here and a little tack weld over here. You see it right there. So I had to remove that to be able to straighten things out. And so I took it out. I drilled those welds and took it out. That's why if you look closely, you'll see that this area is only one layer of metal thick. It's still a little warped, but I was able to straighten it out best I could there. Okay, and again, all the screws, all the bolts are the slotted type, keeping a little bit closer with the period. Why does this look like this? Because it's not really a trigger. I carved that out of a piece of wood that I was able to lay in there. It does operate because I put a return spring on the stock, but it doesn't function. There's no sear notch on it, and it's just there for looks. I did replace this with the plastic staple. I happen to have one of those, and a new saddle ring. But the thong lanyard here is not original also. It's not the original leather piece. It is an original leather shoelace, which worked out pretty good because, you know, with a blink and a quick look, you're not going to notice any difference on that. The rear stock, I took one that had the Red Ryder etching on the left side. It does not have Mr. Harmon's name back here, but it does have the entire Red Ryder etching onto it, which I wanted that to be on the left side of the gun. I like these older stocks because so many of them have a smooth routing. If you get the new stocks these days, you're going to notice a ridge at the edge of all the routing. So I think they used a little more care whenever they rounded these edges off. Now the back of the gun, of course, being Ralphie's, has to have the sundial and the compass. So this is my version of the sundial. I simply drew that on there, and that's not even a hole. That's just a little point that I put on there. Also, I found a small compass, and I said, yep, that's going right on the stock, because that's exactly the way the guns were made for Ralphie. Of course, not proper for any production, but proper for the movie. Not being able to straighten all the metal out, I did best I could in getting it flexed and hammered and so forth, because this gun was seriously in trouble. I mean, this is probably the worst one I've ever picked up and ever tried to straighten out. But good enough for this representation. Now, because there's no innards to this, I believe that in that sequence where Ralphie was firing multiple shots, if you notice, he never took the gun from his shoulder. He never had to prop it on anything or had a hard time cocking it. It simply would cock like this. That's why I believe the gun they used for that sequence either had the main spring taken out, or it was allowed to pull it without the spring retainer, was allowed to pull the plunger the entire distance inside. I'm thinking more that it had been robbed out of the gun because they needed something where he could stand there, keep it on his shoulder, and really pop that lever back and forth each time he pulled the trigger. And again, the trigger does nothing. There is a little spring inside. If you can look way inside there, you can see that I did make it with a tang on it to hold the spring. And I put the spring on the rear stock, just like you would find if it were a real trigger. But this stands out a little more and gives a little more accent to the gun. Well, there it is, folks. If you've ever made anything like this, if you've made movie props, if you've done anything that you wanted to make represented, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Oh no, where did it go? We lost our sight. This thing has sat beside my fireplace for years. Never had a problem. And now the sight's gone. Well, that's going to be reattached because this little puppy is going right back by the fireplace where it loves to sit until such time as the movie comes on every year, and then I get a hold of it and I pretend that I'm Ralphie there back in the day. All right, folks. We'll be talking to you soon. Stay safe and have a great day.